What if I told you that the most formidable swords of the Viking era were forged not from mountain ore, but from ordinary bog mud? This is not a metaphor, but the harsh reality of Scandinavian craftsmen. The basis for their legendary weapons was so-called bog or lake iron. This resource consisted of porous formations that formed at the bottom of swamps, lakes, and river floodplains. Over centuries, billions of iron bacteria concentrated the iron dissolved in the water, turning it into solid lumps of ore. For the Vikings, these unassuming-looking stones were a real treasure. Unlike mountain ore, which had to be mined, bog iron lay literally at their feet. It could be collected in shallow water by simply probing with a long pole or raking it from the bottom.
See how the water shimmers, my son? That's where the iron hides.
It was a renewable resource, as new layers of ore grew in just a few decades. The collection process itself was exhausting and dirty work. People had to stand in cold water for hours, methodically examining the bottom. The pieces of ore found resembled rusty, lumpy sponges filled with silt and organic matter. At first glance, it was hard to believe that this material could be used to create anything of value. It was fragile, dirty, and contained relatively little pure iron. However, it had one key advantage that the Vikings learned to exploit to the fullest. Bog iron contained large amounts of phosphorus, which was a natural alloying element. When processed correctly, this phosphorus gave the metal additional hardness. It was a natural secret that blacksmiths discovered through trial and error.
That's how we get it to be perfectly flat, you see?
The very idea of turning mud into a deadly blade seems incredible. This metal alchemy required not only strength, but also deep knowledge passed down from generation to generation. Every stage, from collection to forging, was fraught with risk and hard work. The collected ore was piled into large heaps on the shore to dry. It had to spend several months in the open air to get rid of excess moisture. Only then did the first stage of its transformation into metal begin. The Vikings saw no difference between craftsmanship and magic. For them, they were two sides of the same process. Turning stone into steel was a sacred ritual that required respect for the elements of fire and earth. It was this approach that allowed them to create masterpieces. We would love to hear your opinion. What do you think about such an unusual source of metal for making weapons? Write about it in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new stories.